Today, there are over 23,000 aircraft in active service, and the humble jet engine plays a crucial part in keeping a good percentage of those in the skies. A jet engine provides the thrust needed to propel the aircraft into the air, as well as the power to keep it from falling out of the sky. Whether it's a passenger airliner taking you off on your jollies, a cargo plane carrying tons of supplies, or an F-22 Raptor out on patrol, the principle of how a jet engine works is essentially the same, which is why it's the most commonly used form of air propulsion we see today. Even helicopters use a form of jet engine called a turboshaft to drive their large rotor blades. The hugely powerful and efficient engines we see in use nowadays aren't the first generation though. There are decades of evolution and progression in the technology which have enabled aircraft to travel the globe and connect our nations. Back in the 1930s, the propeller was the propulsion method of choice for all aircraft. This was partially because propellers are relatively simple and easy to maintain. It wasn't until the Second World War, where the pilots needed higher speeds, that the jet engine really took off. British Air Officer Frank Whittle and German physicist Hans von Ohain simultaneously designed aircraft using jet engines in the 1930s. Ohain was the first in the air with a flight of 7 minutes, but the engine quickly overheated as parts couldn't take the immense heat and pressure. This was actually a boon for Whittle, because he saw this and went back to the drawing board, swapping in new materials that could withstand the intense heat and pressure. Whittle's plane flew for 17 minutes with ease and showed no signs of overheating when they checked it afterwards, and thus the jet engine was born. Today, there are multiple forms of jet engine that all work on a similar principle, but the most commonly used one is a turbofan setup, and this is how it works. At the front of the jet engine there's a large fan which is used to suck cold air into the engine. The cold air which is sucked in through the fan is forced through the inlet, slowing the air down by about 60%. The airspeed is reduced from 600 miles per hour to just 240. The second fan, called a compressor, compresses the air and increases its pressure by about 8 times. This also massively increases the air's temperature. When the pressure is sufficiently high and the air is at the right temperature, kerosene is squirted into the engine from a fuel tank, which is usually located in the plane's wing. The kerosene is fed into the combustion chamber, which is just behind the compressor, so the super hot, super compressed air can easily make its way in. In the combustion chamber, the compressed air and the kerosene mix together. When they mix, they burn violently, giving off hot exhaust gases and resulting in a massive increase in temperature up to around 900 degrees Celsius. The exhaust gases rush out of the combustion chamber and past a set of turbine blades, spinning them like a windmill. As the gases lose energy going through the turbine by cooling down and losing pressure, this engine is transferred to the turbine, which spins faster and faster. The blades of the turbine are connected to an axle that runs the length of the entire engine. The fan at the front of the engine and the compressor are connected to this axle, so as the turbine blades spin, they also turn the compressor and the fan. Once they've passed through the turbine, the hot exhaust gases leave the engine through a tapering exhaust nozzle. This tapered design on the exhaust nozzle helps to accelerate the gases to extremely high speeds. The supersonic hot air leaving the engine is what powers the plane. It's travelling at twice the speed of the cold air entering the front. Military jets sometimes have an afterburner which squirts fuel into the exhaust jet and produces extra thrust. The backward moving exhaust gases are what power the jet forward. Now, in 2020, we find ourselves at the forefront of the next evolution of jet engines, with companies like General Electric, whose brand new engine, the GE9X, may have a slower top speed but is much more fuel efficient and quiet, so it can fly for a lot longer with much less engine noise. Even Rolls-Royce are looking for ways to make their vision of an intelligent engine become a reality. They're working on a bold concept to push jet engines to be even more sustainable using smart technology and 21st century engineering. The original jet engine was born from military requirements, but it has since cemented itself as one of the most important inventions of the last 100 years.